Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draw odds are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. Remember, when you become a member of GoHunt.com/insider, you're going to get a $50 gift card to Go Hunt Gear Shop. What's in the gear shop? The best gear that you can buy for hunting the West. All in all, if you're hunting out West in 2018, GoHunt.com/insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com. Hey, folks, we got a new sponsor. It's called Buckwild Coffee. What's so special about Buckwild Coffee? Well, a gazillion people go to Starbucks every day and drink coffee. Well, why shouldn't Buckwild Coffee offer you light, medium, or dark roast with free shipping? All you have to do is go to whitetailrendezvous.com, go to shop, and order your coffee, and I'll ship it out for free. Hey, thanks so much for visiting Buckwild Coffee. The best brew in the West, the best brew around the campfire, the best brew in the hunting shack, the best brew anywhere. Buckwild Coffee. Get yours today. Folks, Bruce Hutchin back here with John O'Brien of Grandpa Ray Outdoors, and we're going to talk about in this segment pros and cons of land management. Well, everybody's telling me I got to do it. I need it. I need to get fresh eyes. But is there the opposite of that? The yin and the yang of your land. So, John, talk to us about the pros and cons of land management.
Yeah, and this has been something that I started doing at some seminars recently. Because in the wildlife industry, we all hear about the great things. If you do this, this is what's going to happen. But nobody talks about, well, if you do this, this is the downside. This could be a negative. And again, in life, everything has a positive and has a negative. Any action, there's a reaction. So that's something we discuss with people, and those are things that I think more people need to look at. You plant trees here, you plant apple trees, right? What might happen? You plant switchgrass. Okay, that could help divert deer, but what's the downside? There's not everything has a con, but most species. You plant certain desirable species. What happens if you plant too much of a desirable species in too big an area? Harder to hunt. So that's one thing that I really want to emphasize. We can talk about a little bit here more about, and that's where I like to look at a property, have a plan, dial it in, tell people why we're doing certain things, but then I also will say to people, okay, we want to do better, right? We want to have better food plots. Well, you're going to have more growth, right? We have more growth, it mines more nutrients from the soil. That's a negative. We mine more nutrients from the soil, we got to spend more money on fertilizer, right? But then again, if we do a better job at that acre of land, we maybe don't need to plant that second acre of land. That could be a pro. It can be a cycle.
So, and everybody, high schoolers, every action there's a reaction, and so there's response. Nature will respond to everything you do, just as a buck will and a doe. So when you start thinking, and we said in the last segment, kind of ended up with this, you got to start thinking. It's not just we've done it this way, and the point stand's been there for 15 years. We've taken $15. Why should we stop ever hunting them? And the only time we see bucks there is during the rifle season when they're funneling down into this ravine, and it works. Why? Because they're being pressured. This is an escape route. It goes down into nasty stuff, and nobody's going to go in there, so the deer know they're safe. All the deer do. So you think about that. Okay, so that stand probably isn't going to go anyplace. But there's no food. It's climax forest. It's just not going to change. So that stand might be there for the topographical reasons that I just talked about. But what about the other places that every once in a while you see the buck, every once in a while you shoot a doe? Why is that on again, off again, stand site? And you throw it all in together, and I can guarantee you the on again, off again stand site is because something changed and you didn't look at it. I'd almost, I'm not going to bet the farm because I don't own a farm, but you get what I mean. Your thoughts on that, John?
Yeah. My background, and I've talked about this probably too much to people. My background is from managed intensive grazing. I talk about Mother Nature all the time. Okay, there's guys that might love their certain types of forage beans. There's certain people that just love oats. There's certain people for 5 years straight, they've loved their chicory and ladino plot, right? Maybe weather's been perfect. Maybe your deer numbers are a little lower. There's a lot of factors come into play. What happens if we have a plot that's basically, a three-way clover plot, and all of a sudden we get a drought, and there's stunted growth or no growth on your favorite plot that's been very productive for a number of years? All of a sudden it's not productive. All of a sudden the deer are gone. Why are they gone? Maybe your neighbor's got alfalfa and chicory or some other more drought-tolerant species that are surviving from the stress that Mother Nature threw at us. Maybe, just maybe, like the last couple of years in Wisconsin, seems like our seasons are getting a little longer. The first frost date's getting pushed back more. So guys that are all of a sudden, for a number of years, they've loved their brassica plots. They plant it in early August. And the deer are there, and then all of a sudden they're gone. Where are they gone? A lot of these brassicas, they mature in 60 days. Planted on August 1st. That means October 1st. They're mature. Maybe we still got another 2 to 4 weeks of growing season. Our forages are over mature. They're bitter. They're not palatable. Maybe your neighbor planted 2, 3, 4 weeks later, or planted some other species that mature a little slower. 5 years straight, your food plots are great. But because we got a late frost this last year, the deer are gone. Where are they? Maybe you got something else on the other end of the property. Maybe across the fence line, your neighbor's got alfalfa. Maybe the neighbor's got some brassicas that need 70 to 90 days to mature versus those standard rapes and turnips that need 45 to 60. People don't think about that. Maybe you got an excess amount of rain. You loved oats. The deer loved oats, but all of a sudden they're disease stressed because it's been too wet. You're like, why aren't they eating it? They always ate my oats before. Yeah, but it wasn't this kind of rain. That's why I've thrown this out there. We want to have biodiversity of species of food plots. We want to have diversity of bedding cover. We want to have diversity of fruit trees. We want to have diversity throughout your property to best handle the unknowns. The unknowns. What we're really doing is we're becoming risk managers. We're becoming like our own little insurance agent. We're trying to assure that no matter what happens, the deer are going to stay. That's one of the things that I really want to emphasize, and that's where I really focus when I do recommendations. We might have 6, 8, 10 different mixes on a property. Deer eat 365 days a year, no matter what the weather is. Think about it.
So when we're looking at, you just talking about food plots and diversity of seed and maturity and all that. So when you look at your plot of land, you have to figure out, okay, where's the best place for those food plots? See, the food plots don't come first and you figure it out. You figure out the plan, land management, to take the best possible pieces of your land and maximize them. How do we do that, John?
Yeah, the one thing that I want to bring up that to make things easier to hunt, to have better backup stands, to hold more deer, is to have more food plots, but smaller. And again, if I had a choice, let's just say if a guy's got 4 acres of food plots they could plant because maybe that's their budget, maybe how their property lays, amount of deer numbers, whatever factors come into play. I'd rather have 8 quarter acre to a half acre plots than one big field. Easier to hunt. One big field, the buck could stand on one end, glass it, not see a deer and another doe there. Go to the neighbors. You got a big field, you probably have less biodiversity. And again, remember I talked about we want to have a highway? A lot easier to keep bucks moving throughout your property when the buck is moving around and checking for does that maybe are coming to heat, to maybe try to run some other inferior bucks off the property by having multiple food plot locations. And again, by having multiple food plot locations, we're better able to, you can't fool Mother Nature, but to handle whatever Mother Nature throws at us, but by having that diversity of not just species, but of diversity of locations. And that's what we like to do. More plots, smaller plots, same acreage. Sure, it could be easy just to plant one big field, right? But then again, a lot harder to hunt. And that's what we want to be looking at too far as setting up our plots. We want to have water, we want to have bedding cover nearby, and we want to have great quality plots.
Think about that. I just go back and think about, and some people call them staging plots, other people call them killing plots, other people call them, Carter plots. They're all ways of making deer comfortable as they're going from here to there and setting up shops. And my thinking and what we're doing this spring on where I hunt is we're putting up kill plots, but a bunch of them. The challenge we're going to have, we have to put up wire because they'll pound it before deer season. Hint, hint, take a note. Don't put up kill plots in August and expect them to be there during the rut in October because they won't. If you have the right crops in there, they'll be gone. And you go, what's the point of that? And that's exactly the point I bring up. You have to plan and really, get the aerial maps out, get all the things, Onyx maps, all these things. And before you start doing anything, you lay it all out with a guy like John or Eric or Jason or Matt or Adam, simply because you want different eyes. And I'm harping on this because I realize talking to people throughout the country as I do, people miss this. Why do they miss that, John? Why do people miss, the planning aspect of their land?
Well, that's one of the downsides of the wildlife industry. The wildlife industry is a complicated industry, but then again, so many people they'll ask a question, what should I plant? Look at generic answers. It could be on social media. Social media, there's pros and cons, but social media, so many people give answers that are not sound answers. And again, what works for you doesn't work for your neighbor, doesn't work for your third cousin, doesn't work for your high school buddy. Every situation's different. And so what things cause failures? What issues do people overlook? Planting the wrong things in the wrong spot at the wrong time. Sounds simple. But then again, that's what happens with these canned answers. You see this, just plant Ladino clover and chicory, right? But what happens if it's an extreme shady area? What happens if it's a river bottom that gets wet? What happens if you got 2 acres of food plots, but you put an acre of that on your land? Do you still have 365-day nutrition? What happens if you have an extreme amount of deer? You don't get quite the tonnage out of that kind of mix. You got some good quality. The deer hammered it to the ground, not aggressive regrowing. Your deer are in there in June, early September. They're gone. Why'd they go? There's nothing there to eat. And so that's where working with people that understand that no matter what you plant, where you plant, what's going to be the yield goal? Example, people could ask, they should ask. And that's why I ask, well, how many deer do you got on your property? Sometimes they see 6, 8 when I'm hunting on the Grandpa Ray's farm. We have, there's nothing for me to see 40, 50, 60 deer in front of me. Huge problem, huge challenge on many levels. There's different answers between the guy that's got 30 deer versus the guy that's got 6 deer. You got 30 deer, you're going to need more food plots, right? You need more tonnage. But besides that, you think you got one food plot, and if you got 30 deer, you think all 30 deer want to go wandering out in that one food plot? You think that old boss doe won't care that there's 29 other deer out there competing with her in that one plot? You won't like it. What about, your young bucks versus that old dominant buck? You think you might want to have a little bit, some extra different areas for those deer too? Or do you think does, fawns, small bucks, old bucks, they just all wander out in that one food plot? Not happening. People don't think about it at times. They should. That's why we want to have more plots and how we set up our plots differently because of that simple factor. Deer numbers.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, food plots, and some people throw out food plots because they want food and the deer will come. Yes, they will. For the reasons you just talked about, and we'll talk about later when we get into food plots. But food plots serve a myriad of things. One, food, okay. Also cover, especially if I have screening cover around it. So there's cover security and all that. But if you really think about it, if you do it, in my opinion, strategically, you can have many food plots around every single one of your stands in the woods, in a staging area, not just on that 1/4 acre, 1 acre place. And all you want to do is that buck to stop, that doe to stop and take a munch with the right angle already set up, playing the wind. So if you got a piece of property, you go north, south, east, west, you figure out where the wind's coming from, you figure out your stands, locations, not in the traditional, overlooking the field, but, you're actually hunting where the deer are going to be coming from bedding, to the major food source. And I had a good discussion with a guy about this the other day, and so many people miss that because they get this magnificent crop of, John, throw out a product, of beans, just magnificent. And it's drawn, and they're on a string, and it's like clockwork, and the camera's going on, trail camera's going off. You go, oh my goodness, we're all salivating because you got 10 deer on your hit list just from that one field. And we know what's going to happen. They're going to go away, but you're going to give them alternatives, giving good planning, land management. And folks, to me, land management is just planning to hunt your deer, or you want to see deer. Now, we haven't even talked about this. What about, John? Let's jump into this because that's a good thought right there. People that love to take their grandkids out, as I do, and they see critters. I love to take my grandkids to a park, 10,000 feet, slip in there, and all of a sudden, out walks a cow, out walks a bull, out walks a calf, and your grandkids are amazed. We got no weapons, not even hunting season, but you're seeing wildlife. Let's talk about that aspect with land management. Are you going to plan for that with your client?
Yeah, that's something that I do a lot more of than people think about. There's more part of this because I really do as much as I can to try to encourage people to get their kids involved. And there's a lot of people I work with, their wives are involved. So as far as strategy, planning, so on and so forth, we do sell a bee mix. Where's a great place to have a bee mix? Close to your cabin, your hunting, your cottage, houses, et cetera, et cetera. Warm season native grasses. The industry is about just use switchgrass, right? We want to have diversity of bedding species. We sell a fair amount of habitat pollinator mixes. So you have some tall grasses, short grasses, but we also have forbs, wildflowers, which look really cute, really attractive for, which is also good for bees, butterflies, hummingbirds, a lot of other species out there. Looks pretty. It's environmentally sound. My deer and bird mix, which has things like sunflowers. Everybody loves looking at sunflowers, including some other sorghums and buckwheats and some other species. So there's a lot of times, we'll do some of the habitat kind of mixes, closer to where these cottages and houses are, where they could be, even if they're not out hunting, they're just sitting there drinking a cup of coffee or their favorite beverage. They're looking out over the landscape and they're seeing the wildflowers. They're seeing the native grasses. They're seeing, some of these, bee clover mixes, and that adds to the experience. It adds to the long-term sustainability of the property. In some cases, like, with the native grasses, it adds to, the habitat. So, and again, this last weekend, I was at a property and doing a tour with the father, son, wife, and I have this on occasion where, okay, this is my wife's stand. So of course, we have a little different philosophy, especially when the women are out there. They want things to look a little prettier than probably like a Bruce Hutchin, So we will. Those are some of those areas where we'll throw, like I said, some of the sunflower mix out there. Maybe we'll add an extra mix or two with a little more diversity. So when they're out there and maybe they're a little bored or waiting for that nice deer to come through, gives them an opportunity to snap some pictures and just like feel that they're just part of the landscape and environment versus, okay, we're just planting cover and food plots. No, we're doing more. Women think more about that. Men should think more about that. And that's one thing that any property I work with, we do, or I strongly encourage to have diversity, not just of food plots, but habitat. Because so many people just think about deer, but it's like, bees. If we want to have more deer, we want to have better food plots, we need to have bees. We need to have birds. And that's been my focus moving forward the last year, is really trying to educate people on habitat beyond the standard food plot mixes.
Yeah, I'll throw this in. A silent, not a quiet, a silent forest is to me not a good forest. But when there's chickadees and the squirrels and there's hawks, I remember one time a hawk flew right over my head and nailed that squirrel on the ground. That would have been an all-time video. But you think about those things. But the woods are alive. That's what I'm trying to say. And when the woods are alive, that means there's deer around you. There really does. So you're sitting there, you get a little not clover mix, you get some sunflowers, or you get some other seed factors, and the squirrels are scampering, and you're going, oh, here he comes, and that's just another squirrel. But, you have a lot of activity, you have a lot of noise in the forest. That's a good forest. And one way to do that, to close this segment up, is to enhance your habitat. Because, again, I just have to go back, not a noisy forest, but an alive and active forest is a good forest. Your thoughts on that, and we'll close the segment.
Yeah, especially when I was checking trail camera pictures the other day, this is something that I really was observing again. I'll say this is, if you got turkeys out there with deer, some people say, well, if you got turkeys, you don't have deer. You have deer, you don't have turkeys. Not true. I got a lot of pictures, and I continue to get pictures with turkeys and deer on it. So think about this as a deer. If you're a deer, if a turkey's out there eating in an area, the deer might feel more comfortable walking out in that area because the turkeys aren't nervous. Same way with other species. They can complement each other. And again, you got a lot of activity. There could be benefits with getting in and out of deer stands. There could be benefits like that with our deer feeling comfortable. If the squirrels, if the birds, if the turkeys, if there's pheasants, and whatever's out there, if they're not feeling threatened, the deer won't feel as threatened. And again, if there's no deer, if there's not many other species, there's probably an imbalance on your own property. And I agree with you. It's a complementary thing.
And with that, we're going to wrap up the pros and cons of land management with John O'Brien from Grandpa Ray Outdoors. John, how does somebody get a hold of you, please?
Get a hold of me by emailing me at obrionag@gmail.com or call me at 608-235-0628 Monday through Friday. And again, I appreciate anybody that wants to reach out to me to try to dial in your program just a little bit better.
And with that, we're going to go to episode number 3 of Grandpa Ray Outdoors, and presented by Whitetail Rendezvous. And we'll be back in a minute. Hey, folks, a special edition of Whitetail Rendezvous is coming. I've asked 3 companies, Land & Legacy, Rackology, and Grandpa Ray Outdoors, to be part of a series on land management and food plots. So the next few episodes, about 18 of them, in fact, are going to be about either land management or food plots. Why? Because people have been asking me a lot of questions. So I went out and chatted with some guys, and Adam Keith and Matt Dye from Land and Legacy is joining the crew, and at Rackology, we have Jason Obermiller and Eric Fitzgerald. And rounding out the team is Grandpa Ray Outdoors with John O'Brien. Each of them is going to bring a different flavor on what is land management, what are food plots, why you need them, the pros and cons. So listen up to the next series, and I sure hope you like them. If you like them, let me know. If you don't like them, let me know what I can do better.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.